Hello there and welcome to this vlog of July 2024, and I'm like the proverbial bus at the moment. You don't get any content from me for weeks, and then I do two videos in under 24 hours. Much like being stood at a bus station in the rain for like several hours, and then two buses come along within minutes of each other. So I'll leave it up to you whether you find that irritating or gratifying. All I can do today is give you the subject matter, which is just going to be a quick follow-up on yesterday's video. I really did feel the need to do this because woke up this morning, had a look on YouTube, and it just hit me that I'd had like over 1,500 views on a video that at that time had gone out like 12 hours ago. Now, given I am such a small channel and I don't care about subs and views, I've said that many, many times, I was like, I wonder why that struck a chord with what is a very niche community, obviously, in BattleTech. Probably to do with the fact that I know how to game not social media, I know how to game these platforms a little bit by like the titles and what kind of like words and phrases to use and things like that. But then I kind of go down into the comments. There's like nearly 100 comments there, and and great comments as well. It's people basically saying, or asking what I'd asked for, which is tell us if you've got it, tell us if you're receiving it, tell us if you haven't received it, because I really wanted to kind of go back to that and build a bit of a picture up as to what the state of play is at the moment. And that for me is really, really gratifying to see, because I've got absolutely no interest in being like the biggest BattleTech content creator. That would be utterly ridiculous for me to think that I could do that. And I don't want to either. What I like is my little like positive group where we're all pretty, generally speaking, the people that watch me are the more fanatical end of the fan base, because they have to really search out the smaller community members, right? But then they tend to be very positive and like productive, but negative when you need to be, right? Like I am gonna, say some like negative things today, if you want to term it as that, but hopefully negative constructive as opposed to just overtly negative. I never try to do that, because I just don't think it's good for anybody, especially my mindset. I don't want to be negative. So what I'm going to do then is we're just going to run down some points that came out of the comments yesterday, because again, and I say this all the time, like the little community that follow me are far more clued in than I am. To a lot of extent, so I can kind of act as a little bit of a hub. And if you do want to know what's going on with your Kickstarter, it's actually a good place to start, is just to go through the comment section and see what like the good people of the BattleTech community have said. And you'll start seeing on there that like 1 out of every 4 comments that were responding was saying, I actually got my Kickstarter a couple of weeks ago or a couple of days ago. And that's great to see, right? It's great to see that that probably, you've got to say, maybe thousands of Kickstarters have gone out then. I believe, and this is just from memory, I tried to look into it this morning, but I couldn't find the stat, but I think there were like 22,000 people signed up to the Kickstarter. Somebody very kindly pointed out as well that QML had suggested, I think on their Twitter feed, that they were doing upwards of 2,000 orders a week. So if you kind of, do the math and carry the one on that one, to me that would mean that everything will get done within like 3 months. So if we say that it started like 2 weeks ago, you can probably say that there's like 2.5 months, 3 months left, where the vast majority of things should have gone out. What I did see, again, I'm not done any statistical analysis on this, that would be overkill, so it's all anecdotal, but I did notice that one person from the international market said that they had got theirs, but it was a Canadian, and obviously Canada is very close to the US, so I suppose that doesn't tell us much. Nobody in Europe or Australia has got theirs yet, certainly by what I've seen by it anyway. And there might be some specific circumstances where someone in Europe's got it quicker for whatever reason, but the general like populace, me included in that, we haven't seen anything. I certainly know enough people across like the BattleTech community in the UK, or even, I'll tell you one way you can really gauge it is just to go on eBay. And you'll see that like there's lots of the Kickstarter stuff already on eBay. It's all in America, right? So that's why people have got the Kickstarter early, and then they're putting, I'm not. It would be very unfair actually to call them like scalpers, or is it scalpers or scalpers? I can't remember how that's spelled. But the people who basically game the system, get things early, buy up all the stock, and then put it out for like 4 times as much on eBay. Yes, it's expensive on there, but I don't think it's necessarily scalpers. I think it's just people who are like, taking a little bit of a cheeky opportunity. Well, if somebody wants to spend $90 on a force pack that they might have to wait 2 months for, then that's up to them. It's supply and demand. Scalping is much more problematic. That's where somebody actually goes and buys up all the stock and then hoards it and puts it on for inflated prices. That's not what's happening here. It's just people being opportunistic and cheeky, which I really don't have an issue with. Like, if you were lucky enough to get the Kickstarter early and you don't want some of it, fill your boots. If somebody does want to pay through the nose to get it, that's up to them. Anyway, what I've done, I've made a little bit of a list here then, just to talk about some of the talking points that came up in the comments yesterday. The first one that I want to discuss is, I suppose it is a criticism of Catalyst, and it came up a few times yesterday, people talking about the perceived bad communications. I really do think that is a problem for Catalyst. At the moment, my understanding is that they put a lot of their news on the streaming site, which is, I think, just on the YouTube channel, so that every week they'll have a chat between two people at CGL who will then discuss the news for that week, and then the Kickstarter news will get thrown in there somewhere. I really don't like that approach, and I think, I'm not saying that they watch me, but I would just ask if anyone knows someone at Catalyst, and I've got no problem with them doing this, right? That's just a service that they provide verbally, and if people want to watch that, great. I don't get time though, and a lot of your audience are on international hours. So when you're doing a live stream at whatever 5 o'clock US time, it's could be midnight here, because obviously that's on the West Coast, right? So I'll just forget about it, won't see it, and then this is the most worrying thing, and this is what you should never do in comms. It's then all that news then goes second hand through the community. So you'll get some, maybe someone who's a bit disingenuous or has got an agenda saying, "Oh, did you hear that there was a problem?" Yada yada yada, that they've watched and then spun in their own way, and then all of a sudden it goes through the community. That is completely mitigated if you do written communication. So if Catalyst just kind of put a synopsis out before they drop the podcast or whatever it is, just saying, look, this is the state of play, this is where we're at, this is, what's in the film Alien 3, where the prison warden says, this is rumor control. That's kind of what this is, right? It's just kind of putting your own spin and your own communications on things so that there can be no misunderstanding. And I really, really would advise that they do that, especially in a community like ours, which is high octane, and people get very emotive about it. Just tell us what the situation is. Now, that news, sometimes they'll have bad news to give, right? They've already had a bit of bad news to give in that, well, I say they've not given it yet, really, as far as I can see, but they estimated June for delivery dates. It's now the end of July, or coming up to the end of July, and a lot of people don't have their Kickstarters. Now, why this is a problem, and I think this is something I think Catalyst, and fair enough, it's probably to do with the distributor and the logistics involved in it, as opposed to anything that Catalyst have done. But ultimately, the money has gone to them, and they're the ones that then need to take the responsibility for the communications. So, what I'm saying is, they might not want to put their stamp on it because it looks like then they're taking responsibility for it. But in a sense, they owe that to their customer base. And why I think it's a problem, and I'm just going to use my own kind of example in this, anecdotally. So, I'm waiting for a Kickstarter, which I have no idea when it's coming, and separately, and we'll discuss this next about the issue with shipping emails. So shelve that for a second. Let's talk about the anecdote first, or anecdotally what the issue is. I'm kind of gotten to a point now where I've got no idea if this thing is in transit or if it won't be picked for 2 months. I genuinely don't know. It would be, if I was an American or had an American address, it would be easier, I think, because I can already see that the American orders are getting done much quicker, which is absolutely understandable. They should do that because the majority of the orders are in America. It would be crazy for them to do it any other way, and that's where the mainstay of the audience is. Where my issue is, and this comes from the communications point, because I'm kind of sat here just completely unaware where this thing is, I feel like I'm on tenterhooks for this delivery because this is like this is not a standard delivery, right? Like if I order a Blu-ray on Amazon and then it comes to my house, I don't care if I'm in or not. One, I've got like a lockbox outside where they can put my post, and if it's small enough, obviously they put it through my letterbox. And even if if I order a T-shirt or whatever and it gets left outside, I don't care, right? Like it's a $15 T-shirt or a $20 T-shirt, whatever. I'm basically like, well, if it gets damaged or whatever, I can just return it to Amazon, or I might not even care. This Kickstarter is like getting a couple of sofas delivered. Like it's something that I've got to be in the house for. Now, for me, and this is just me, like personally, I am in a relationship with somebody, but that person lives overseas and he's only in the UK about 20-25% of the year, and even then that person's in London a lot. So within like a calendar month period, I might only have someone else in the house like 5 or 6 days a month. So if I'm off at work at that time and someone's in the house and then they can let someone in, great. But the vast majority of the time, I can't do that. Now, I'm lucky enough to own a house with like a driveway and a big front garden, so they can put it somewhere. It's not like it has to be left out in the street. But I'm then getting like thousands of pounds worth of product in big boxes left outside, which is, I think in the area I live in wouldn't be necessarily a major problem because it's a pretty decent area. But I've kind of had to draft my neighbours into this. Like I've said to my neighbours, look, if I'm out and these giant boxes just show up in my garden, I trust them and know them well enough that they've got keys to my my driveway gate and my garage. So I was just like, can you just stick it in the garage for me? So it's not a major drama, but there's always that like, yeah, I'd much rather be in for this because anything can happen, right? Like it could be that they just don't deliver because they might need a signature for it from me, and then it goes back to central HQ and it gets lost in the system. Like you've always got that thing in the back of your mind of, I just want to be in. I want to take receipt of it and then stick it where I can keep it safe until I have to deal with it. And Catalyst not putting comms out really kind of keeps us on those tenterhooks. So, for instance, if they came out just in written communication and said, look, European fans, we're sorry, but there have been some delays on X, Y, and Z. Put this in writing, obviously. And you won't get your Kickstarters until November, right? I honestly would not care. I'd honestly be like, great, thank you for telling me. I can now get on with my life. I've got plenty of stuff to paint, plenty of hobby to do. Yeah, I suppose it would annoy me a little bit in that, well, they said June and then it suddenly turned into November. But I'd probably feel that way for about 5 minutes and I'd be like, hey, whatever, life's too short, get on with things. You would always get that percentile of the community, and, you get this in any community who will go absolutely nuts about it and threaten all kinds of legal action. You very quickly find, though, that those voices go away. I certainly don't listen to them. The sensible people across the community don't listen to them. So take your heat. They really don't have any bearing or influence on things. You can see that by how successful the last Kickstarter was. Despite a prolonged campaign to kind of target Catalyst, the Kickstarter was wildly successful. So these things, I think, are just, they're all storms in a teacup and they're best just to be ignored. So if I was Catalyst, if they have any fear about like negative repercussions on comms, just accept that it will always happen, but mitigate it by being very strong with your communication. And at the moment, I don't see that. And it is, again, it's a problem. A lot of people flag it, and I think they're right to flag it. And I'm flagging it now and have flagged it in the past. I think that I'd much rather just get the spoonful of the salty medicine that is difficult to take, but I'll feel better long term for knowing, if that makes sense. Next up then, and this kind of, the thing that I shelved that I just talked about, which was the shipping confirmations. This is something I believe on the distributor side. So this has really got nothing to do with Catalyst, what I'm about to say now. But I'm hearing a lot of people across the community saying that they've not had email shipping confirmation about the Kickstarter, yet they've then received the Kickstarter. That is annoying. Like, you know, in an ideal world, obviously, if I could just get an email or a text saying, we have got your shipping and it will be delivered in the next 2 weeks, that would be great. Then I can at least plan my kind of itinerary around that and make a logical assumption of, well, it probably won't come within 3 days, and then I'm going to have to try and be in around the house for like a 5-day stint, if possible, or at least get my neighbours on alarm if I have to go into work or go out or anything, so that they're able to pick it up for me. Whatever, that would be ideal. If we're not even getting that, it really does turn this into like roulette as to whether this thing gets left on my driveway for 24 hours, it's then raining, and I come back and like, you know, all the books are ruined or whatever. So, you know, and remember I live in Britain, which has nefariously got some of the worst weather in Europe, especially this summer has just been a complete washout, really. So just little things like that where you just, oh, please, I don't care when I get it. I just give me a window and I'll be more than happy with that. You know, I honestly don't care if they say it's in 3 months. As long as I know, I'm much, much happier with that. The reason I'm bringing that up as well is just to make you all acutely aware of that. That I assumed that when you went onto the backer kit section, and there's like a 4 light table. So the first light is like order put in, the second light is order paid, the third light is address locked, and the 4th light, which none of my 4th lights are lit yet on my Kickstarters, but the 4th one is that it has been shipped, and I'm currently sat at light 3 for all of them. So the order and the address has been locked in, but that's all I know. Subsequently heard again through the comments and through some people on Twitter yesterday saying, actually, I got the order but I got no shipping notification. Now what I've heard is, and I did a little bit of research on this, I think QML, and that's again, are we in Europe even getting QML? Because I understand now that we're not. I understand it's another distribution company. I don't even know if QML operate in Europe. So that other sister company or other company going to give out details on whether they've got the orders or whether they're coming through to us? Because it certainly looks like we can't trust the backer kit to do it, because it's, again, just anecdotally from what I'm hearing from numerous people as well, not just from like one person. I've heard this from probably upwards of 10 people saying, yeah, I got absolutely no shipping notification whatsoever, and it just turned up at my door. So be aware of that. Hopefully that's just almost like early day glitches where they've done orders and they've not done part of the process, and if someone's caught it, and then all the process will get done. So fingers crossed we do get those notifications, because I do envisage that being a problem, especially for the bigger orders, for obvious reasons, right? Especially, you know, if that gets left on outside somewhere and it gets stolen or damaged or something like that, it can cause complete chaos for everyone concerned. So yeah, just something to be aware of anyway, that you know, it might be that you just you get up one day at 9 o'clock in the morning, doorbell, and suddenly someone's turned up with like 18 crates at your house. There you go. Also as well, someone pointed me in the direction of QML's Twitter, which was really nice because they've got some data on there. They did say on that page that they were doing 2,000 orders a week for the BattleTech Kickstarter. Now, if you kind of work that out, and I think, I'm just going off memory here, but I think there were like 22,000 people signed up to the Kickstarter. So if you kind of look at it like, theoretically then, that should be like 11 weeks, right? That's nearly 3 months. So if I then say for myself that the European orders will probably get done at the very latter stage of that, my prediction kind of comes true at that point. I always thought that I'd get it in and around the fall, so I wouldn't be surprised at all if this came to me in September. So yeah, that's just something to keep in mind, that, you know, there are like, you know, if they are rocking out 2,000 a month, 2,000 a week, that's actually pretty good, I think. And given all the comments yesterday, there were a lot of people in there saying, yeah, I got my Kickstarter 4 days ago, I got my Kickstarter 7 days ago. So that's a good sign. You know, obviously the more people get it, the faster it all gets cleared, the better chance we've all got of getting it as soon as possible. So good comms there by QML to just kind of give us that start. And finally, it just kind of segues me into the international thing, because so many, in fact, literally like 99% of everyone commenting yesterday were from the US. So it was people in the US saying, you know, I got my order, or I've had my shipping notification but a few weeks ago and haven't had the order yet, or things like that. It is all the US, apart from one guy who said that he got his order and he's in Canada. So I know of one person in the international market who got the Kickstarter, everyone else in the US, so it seems. So that's it. That's all I wanted to kind of go through today. Just a bit of like extra from yesterday, because I really do like to clear the communications up and, you know, give you as, I suppose, as constructive and truthful information as I can get, just from, even if it's just like the anecdotal, what is going on in the comments section. Given that, you know, so many people watched that video yesterday, it's just a good, I think if the wholesome people amongst us can kind of get together, if, you know, if Catalyst aren't willing to kind of put it out in writing, we can kind of see what is going on across the community just by sharing what we all know. So, and you know, it's a real privilege for me that I'm able to do that to some extent for the community. Again, you can't really pick up like what will probably be a video of, you know, 2,000 to 3,000 people who viewed it over the next few days. Although you can never say that because YouTube's really weird. But, you know, if that means that then there's a bit more clarity and people can have more of an understanding of when they might be getting it, or there can be like less angst and less animosity, that's a good thing. Go back to that original point that I made about comms, though. It would be very, very nice to see Catalyst doing this, because it shouldn't befall anyone across the community, whether it's me or any of the other, like, say, positive community members coming out and saying, well, this has happened, so maybe, you know, don't worry about it too much at this juncture because everyone's having to face it. I'd much rather just Catalyst put out very, very, like, short, very like logical comms. Just say, this is the situation, this is what we are going through. Apologies in advance if anyone is delayed, but we are doing everything we can to get it out to you as soon as possible. Anyway, I'm going to leave that there because that brings me up to just over 20 minutes. That probably will be the last video I do for a few weeks. Again, if I get the shipping confirmations through, or we start seeing like a real plethora of shipping orders coming through, I'll probably do a little video on that just to kind of give a bit of an update over the next 2 weeks. But aside from that, again, go back to the point I made yesterday, I'm really not going to kind of get back into the channel properly until after the Kickstarter has arrived. So expect this like weird intermittent content from me in the meantime. Anyway, I'll leave it there. I'll thank you very much for watching, and I'll hopefully catch you again next time.